Hi, thank you for joining me for another edition of Insight from my book, where we explore ideas that strengthen our leadership, deepen our understanding, and inspire us to become wiser citizens in an ever changing world. Whether you are joining us from New York or California, Texas or Florida, Alaska or Hawaii, or from American communities serving, studying, working, or living abroad, I am honored to have you with us today. My name is Reverend Dr. Clarence R. Pearson, Sr. I am a pastor, researcher, leadership consultant, public policy observer, and author with a passion for helping individuals, communities, institutions, and nations grow through wisdom, ethical leadership, responsible citizenship, and informed decision making. Today, I would like to share another important insight from my latest book, Neither Left Nor Right: The Battle for America's Democratic Soul. Our focus today comes from Chapter 12, Geopolitical Uncertainty in a Polarized America. The central lesson of this chapter reaches far beyond America's borders. When America is divided at home, the world becomes less certain abroad. The world is watching America. Many Americans naturally focus on domestic issues: jobs, education, healthcare, taxes, public safety. These are all important. But America occupies a unique place in the international system. Its economy influences global markets, its military helps deter aggression, its diplomacy shapes international alliances, its democratic institutions inspire or discourage people around the world. For nearly 8 decades, America's global influence has rested not only on military strength or economic power, it has also rested on something less tangible but equally important: credibility. The world has trusted that America would generally honor its commitments, uphold constitutional government, and provide stable leadership through changes in administration. That trust has been one of America's greatest strategic assets. Division at home creates uncertainty. Abroad, political disagreements are normal in every democracy. What concerns America's allies is not that Americans debate important issues. What concerns them is whether those debates create uncertainty about America's long term commitments. When foreign governments see dramatic shifts in policy every election cycle, when international agreements appear temporary, when domestic political conflict overshadows strategic planning, questions naturally arise. Can America be counted on? Will today's commitments survive tomorrow's election? Can long term partnerships endure short term political conflict? These questions affect diplomacy, trade, security, and international cooperation. Reliability is one of the strongest forms of leadership. Adversaries often exploit division. Chapter 12 also examines how geopolitical competitors closely observe America's internal divisions. History demonstrates that nations experiencing internal polarization may become more vulnerable to external influence. Countries such as Russia, China, and Iran have each pursued strategies designed to advance their national interests in an increasingly competitive international environment. One lesson remains clear: when Americans become deeply divided, foreign actors may seek opportunities to amplify existing tensions. They do not need to create every disagreement. Sometimes they simply encourage existing divisions to grow wider. The objective is often not to persuade Americans to adopt one particular political viewpoint. The objective is to reduce trust, to increase confusion, to weaken national unity, and to undermine confidence in democratic institutions. America's greatest defense against foreign influence has always been an informed, united, and resilient citizenry. Information has become a strategic weapon. In previous generations, wars were fought primarily with soldiers, ships, aircraft, and missiles. Today, information itself has become a strategic instrument. Disinformation campaigns, cyber operations, artificial intelligence, manipulated media, and coordinated online influence operations now shape international competition. One of the case studies explored in this chapter examines Russian interference efforts surrounding recent American elections. The broader lesson extends beyond one country or one election. Information warfare succeeds when citizens stop trusting one another, when truth becomes difficult to distinguish from deception, when every institution becomes suspect. National security now depends not only on protecting physical borders, it also depends on protecting the integrity of our information environment. America leads best by example. Military strength remains important. Economic leadership remains important. Diplomatic influence remains important. But history repeatedly reminds us that America's greatest source of influence has often been its example. Around the world, millions have admired America's commitment to constitutional government, peaceful transfers of power, independent courts, freedom of expression, religious liberty, equal justice under law. These principles have inspired generations far beyond America's borders. Leadership by example cannot be imposed, it must be demonstrated. The stronger America's democracy becomes at home, the stronger its voice becomes abroad. Global leadership begins with national unity. America does not have to be perfect to lead. No nation is. But effective leadership requires consistency. It requires credibility. It requires confidence. The world does not expect Americans to agree on every issue. It does expect the United States to remain committed to constitutional governance, democratic institutions, and peaceful political transitions. When America demonstrates resilience through disagreement rather than division, it sends a powerful message. Democracy works, not because citizens always agree, but because they remain committed to solving differences peacefully. That example may be America's greatest contribution to the world. Why this matters today. This conversation matters because America's domestic choices increasingly shape international stability. Every election, every constitutional debate, every effort to strengthen democratic institutions, every act of responsible citizenship contributes to America's global reputation. The world pays attention not because America is perfect, but because America's stability influences the stability of many others. Our democracy is more than a national inheritance, it is a global responsibility. 3 questions for reflection. This week, I encourage you to reflect on 3 simple questions. 1. Do I recognize that America's unity contributes to global stability? 2. Am I strengthening trust within my own community, making our nation more resilient against external influence? 3. How can I help ensure that America's example remains one of constitutional democracy, responsible citizenship, and principled leadership? These questions are not intended to diminish political debate. They are intended to remind us that our democratic responsibilities extend beyond ourselves. They influence future generations, and they influence the world. Why I wrote this chapter? I wrote this chapter because I believe many Americans understandably view foreign policy as something that happens overseas. In reality, foreign policy often begins at home. Strong diplomacy begins with strong institutions. Strong alliances begin with reliable commitments. Strong national security begins with informed citizens. And enduring leadership begins with democratic integrity. America's influence has never depended solely upon the size of its military or economy. It has depended upon whether the world believes America's constitutional principles remain worthy of confidence. That confidence begins with us. In closing, let's quickly review today's insight. Today, we learned 1. America's global influence depends as much on credibility as on military or economic strength. 2. Domestic political polarization creates uncertainty among allies and opportunities for geopolitical competitors. 3. Foreign adversaries often seek to exploit existing divisions rather than create them. 4. Information has become a powerful instrument of international competition. 5. America's greatest global leadership comes through the example of a healthy constitutional democracy. 6. National unity strengthens both domestic resilience and international confidence. When these principles guide our thinking, America becomes a more trusted ally, a stronger democracy, and a more effective global leader. If today's insight has been meaningful to you, I encourage you to get a copy of my book, Neither Left Nor Right: The Battle for America's Democratic Soul. The book is available through Amazon and other major online booksellers. Simply search for my name, Clarence R. Pearson, to discover this and my other published works. After reading the book, I encourage you to leave an honest review to help other readers discover this important conversation. I would also be honored if you would follow my Amazon author page to stay informed about future books, leadership resources, civic education materials, and new releases. Before you go, please follow, subscribe, like, comment, and share. Together, we can strengthen democratic resilience, promote informed citizenship, rebuild public trust, and ensure that America continues to lead not only through its strength, but through the enduring power of its constitutional principles. I have been your presenter, Reverend Dr. Clarence R. Pearson, Sr., helping you transform knowledge into wisdom, conviction into character, and citizenship into impact. Thank you for joining me for this edition of Insight from my book. Until next time, remember, America's greatest strategic advantage is not found in its weapons, its wealth, or its technology. It is found in the strength of its democracy, the resilience of its people, and the trust it earns at home and around the world. When we protect the American Republic, we help strengthen the hope of democracy far beyond our own shores. God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.